Good evening to the both of you. This is a first for me. I haven't done a Heritage Month interview where I interviewed two siblings and graduates of Suffolk University. So it's my pleasure to celebrate Black History Month with you, two Black gentlemen who graduated from Suffolk and from two colleges at Suffolk. So what a pleasure to meet the two of you. So I'll do my intro and I'll have you to introduce yourself. So my name is Adesora Ignoreka. I serve as the Director for Career Equity and Access at the Career Center. And I have the pleasure of celebrating Black History Month with the both of you. And I will start with you, Aaron. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us how you identify?
Yes, sure. My name is Aaron Mundele, and I'm an alumni from Suffolk. I graduated from the master's program in accounting in 2019, and I identify as Aaron Mundele.
Thanks, Aaron. And Julien?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Julien Mundele. I'm also an alum of both the law school and the business school. I also recently came back to the school to be an adjunct professor at the law school, and I identify as Julien Mundele.
Very well, thank you. So as we are celebrating Black History Month, there's no denying identity impact on one's professional life. How have aspects of your identity impacted your career? So Julien, we'll probably start with you.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if I think about, my identity, right, as a lawyer, a father, a husband, a brother, Christian, was involved in the community, those are all things that every day as an assistant United States attorney, I think about, my background and how I grew up, and that influences the decisions that I make. I think in my job, a lot of what we focus on is trying to seek justice. And excuse me, that can be that can look different depending on the circumstances. But I often rely on my just upbringing and what I've learned throughout my life and my various interactions to kind of try to focus on what's the right thing in those circumstances, and trying to reach a resolution that makes sense and is a good outcome for everybody.
Aaron?
Yeah, similar to what Julien said, myself too, as an African American, as an African Congolese, my background, my family values really has shaped a lot of my decision-making process, especially as someone who's recently who passed an exam. So I'm currently waiting for my license to be approved by the state so I can become a CPA. In my field, there is not a lot of Black CPAs, so it's also something that I'm very mindful when I'm, when I'm working, when I'm representing my people, my race, and also definitely being mindful that we have to lead by example. As far as the fact that there's not many of us in that field, we want to continue to be excellent at what we do. So it's definitely a great opportunity for myself, and using this example to showcase a lot of our talent as Black professionals.
Awesome. As we celebrate Black History Month, what does the month mean to you, and what significance does it carry for you? I'll start with Julien.
So I would say for me, Black History Month means it's an opportunity for us to celebrate, acknowledge, educate, and be inspired by the accomplishments and the things that African Americans have done in the country. I think it's a month to look at what we have gone through in our history, and acknowledging the people that came before us, and the roads that they had to travel to provide us with the opportunities that we have now. I think it's important to take the time to, as we celebrate, to also acknowledge the struggle and the systematic, oppression that African Americans have faced throughout throughout the country, throughout the years. And it's important for us to learn from the legacy of slavery and what it has done and how it's influenced us all as African Americans, and to think about how that has led to the legacy of poverty, mass incarceration, injustice, and really a lack of educational opportunities. So I think it's important for us to educate the next generation and Black, white, and people of all races as to the impact that those legacies have had on us, and just to think about how do we move forward, right? But I also think a big part of the month is to be inspired, and I think as a lawyer, as a Black prosecutor, I share what Aaron says. There's not really a lot of Black male prosecutors, and when I look at the attorneys that have come before me, whether it be individuals that have worked in the Department of Justice, like Thurgood Marshall, who has then gone on to be in the Supreme Court, or individuals who have been leaders here in Massachusetts, like Edward Brooks, who was the first Attorney General, the first Black U.S. Senator to be elected by popular vote, or even if we look at our current AG now, Andrea Campbell, and the things that she's accomplishing. I think that this is a time for us to really be inspired by what we are doing throughout the country and what we've done throughout history.
Definitely an inspiring month for sure. Aaron?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with what Julien said more, because it's definitely a time for us to reflect and see some of the accomplishment that's been done by a lot of African Americans, people from African descendants, but it's also a time to also reflect and celebrate, the work that needs to continue to be done, because as much as they've paved the way and allowed us this great opportunity to allow us to realize that, regardless of the skin color, anyone can achieve great things, but now it's for us to continue to carry the baton, continue to move the needle forward. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to continue to celebrate, but continue to realize that there's a lot of work to do. We got to continue to inspire the next generation the same way we've been inspired. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to continue to celebrate the achievement, but continue to realize that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Absolutely. I think you both touched on this a little bit, but I'll still love to answer the question if you want a chance to expand a little more. How has your racial and cultural identity encouraged and empowered you in your line of work? So who would like to go first?
I could jump in. So again, and like you said, I hinted on it in my last response, but to go a little bit deeper, if I think about when I entered law school, I entered with the intentions of going to corporate law and really focusing on that. But when my first year of law school, I interned for a judge in the Dorchester District Court, and it was really through that experience that I learned more about the criminal justice system and the impact that a prosecutor can have. As an intern, I saw that the prosecutor really had the discretion, especially at the district court level, to really make decisions that could change people's lives forever. Whether it be to arraign someone, to decide to send someone to jail, put them on probation, or to seek an alternative resolution. And it was at that point that I really realized, as far as, I saw a lot of people that were coming in and out of the door, and a lot of them looked like me, but they weren't any prosecutors that looked like me. And for me, it was something that it drew me to say and to think about how I could impact the community that I grew up in, and how it's important to have representation, I think, in all aspects of the system. So my identity is something that has empowered me to try to focus on being a prosecutor, first at the state level and now at the federal level.
Aaron?
Yep. I also want to share a lot of similarities, actually. for me, it was a different approach that I took once I graduated from Suffolk. So initially, I wanted to go corporate because I needed to pay off some loans and also kind of get that experience. So as I started working for my job and also being one of the few Black folks there, and also it made me realize that in order to continue to stand out and have more responsibility, I also took on the difficult challenge of becoming a CPA, which was not easy, working in public accounting and also finding the time to study and juggle life. So I wanted to do it because I knew some of the opportunity that it would bring once I get through that point, and now I'm able to see it. And also more recently, I'm actually even thinking of going the opposite way. So initially I wanted to go in a corporate route and wanted to, reap those benefits, but also now I've been actually involved in more community service initiatives. So I've been doing a lot of voluntary events at different community centers, which has actually even empowered me more because the knowledge that I was able to obtain working at a big firm, I'm able to give it back and share it with the community. And that kind of event for me is even more inspiring, like my brother Julien said, because you can kind of really talk directly to the people who can benefit from these services. And even as a tax professional, like taxes are very complicated, even as now that I'm involved in it, there's still so many things that, I don't understand. So as I'm able to learn these things and translate it in languages that are more plain, I'm able to connect with people and then they can relate more. So I think as my identity, as a Black man, makes it easier for me to share and pretty much share and transmit that information to people that look like me, and they were more receptive to it because they understand that it's coming from someone who's been in a similar situation.
Appreciate that. What would you say is your biggest success story in your career today? You can go, Aaron. At least I know you just passed the CPA. So
actually, I would say my biggest accomplishment, I might be surprised, but I would say my CPA, but honestly, I would say just the combination of both. The fact that I'm kind of trying to push myself to be more active and being involved in the community because people might not realize, but I'm more of like an introvert by nature. So ideally, I'm kind of more of a person who likes to kick back and listen to music and be very passive, But recently, I've been challenging myself to, be more out there and share information with the public, and that's for me is one of my biggest accomplishments. Just feeling more comfortable doing that because it's information that I feel people can benefit from, but it's also something that I'm very knowledgeable at, and I'm not really good, but I'm getting better. So I really, like that aspect of it.
Julien?
Yeah, it's a difficult question, right? Because it's hard to pick. I mean, I think I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to be part of the prosecution on some important cases that I think have had good impact for the community and for individual victims. And then also when I worked as a defense attorney, I've had the opportunity to represent people who were wrongfully charged. And that's always, something that really stands out and is rewarding work. But I think ultimately, if I had to choose one of the biggest success is that oftentimes we allow our identities to be formed by what we do, right? And have what we do become more important than anything else. So what I would say that I'm probably the most proud of is having been able to really, work really hard in my job and be successful. And, with everything that comes with it as far as working long hours and all of those things, but also then still being able to have that work-life balance of, focusing on the family and also being able to be there for my kids and my wife and my siblings and all of those things, I think are things that are what I would consider part of the success of my career so far.
Right. So you talked about something earlier, Julian, about the workplace and representation. But I'd like to ask you a question that digs a little deeper into that. What are some changes that you would hope to see in your industry, in your workplace, that improves the experience or representation of Black people?
Yeah, it's it's challenging because when I think about my journey to law school and um, I knew for a long time that this is what I wanted to do is to be a lawyer, but growing up, I didn't know any lawyers. I didn't have any lawyers in my family. I didn't have any, as Aaron talked about earlier, we immigrated here to the United States at a very young age, and we didn't have that kind of web of network of folks that were attorneys or that were entrenched in the community. And I think oftentimes for attorneys of color, that's a very similar story, right? When we look at our peers, oftentimes their fathers are lawyers, their uncle are lawyers, right? There are people that they can turn to say, how do I attain this goal? And I think for us as a community, that's not something that we often have. And I think we need the Black lawyers now need to reach back, right, and help others to get opportunities. But then also I think that, the law schools and the industry also has to bear some responsibilities for creating paths for folks to get to law school. And this is somewhat of a shameless plug. As a Suffolk alum, I will say that Suffolk has done a great job, and it has a program where they're reaching out to people that are in undergrad and taking them into the law school for over the summer to give them just kind of a path and a journey as to what to follow and how to become a lawyer, right? Which it sounds like such a small thing, but it's huge because getting into law school is very competitive. And if you don't have, and if you don't hit all of the markers that some of these law schools are looking for, you're going to reduce your opportunity to get into a good law school. So I think it's trying to think about how to have a systematic approach where practitioners can reach back and mentor people, but then also institutions like schools can try to create programs that acknowledge that we need to increase diversity in the pipeline of folks that are applying to law school, and then that will also become lawyers.
Absolutely, I love it. Aaron?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree because from what I'm seeing too from my company, I think there's definitely a big initiative for diversity hiring. So I think they're doing a great job in terms of trying to hire more diverse candidate. But what, like my brother Julien said, it also sometimes starts with the school and the community. So first, they need to be an interest for people to even want to join the accounting profession. I was kind of the same way when I was in school and young. I didn't know that I was going to be an accountant, and I didn't even know what an accountant was. To be honest with you, till I met some of my friends and they told me, yes, if you're good with numbers, you're gonna like it. So I was always good with numbers, so I figured like, oh, what is this profession where if you have to really be good with numbers and you can advance. But come to find out, actually, the days of being good with numbers as an accountant is just not it. Right now you have to be more diverse. So it's more of a profession where you have to be savvy with technology. You have to be communicating with clients. So it's more of a well-rounded profession. But and for me it was a perfect fit because I'm still able to apply a lot of the math knowledge background that I have, but I also enjoyed learning new technology and yeah, new technology. So I do think that it starts with the school, and like Julian said, I think Suffolk does a great job in terms of allowing people to learn about the profession. I definitely like what they're doing at the Ram Center with the job shadowing, with they're allowing students to approach certain alumni and get a chance to shadow them at their profession, which is giving them valuable insight to something that you might not know and see if that's something that's a great fit for you. Under President Kelly, I know there's been, at least while I was there was a lot of initiative to continue to grow our department. So it really starts with the school and the community. And I think as long as we can continue to, expand these resources, people start getting, an interest to these jobs that are unknown sometimes for people and can have lucrative careers. So I know for me during the COVID, I was very fortunate because as an accountant of the financial industry, we didn't get hit as bad as other industries. So it tended to be very stable. So again, that was something that I was very lucky and granted and very fortunate for. But certain positions that are more in that kind of section field tends to be less affected by certain like pandemics or financial situations too. So that's why sometimes as African Americans, it's important for us to know that be well-rounded, be open to different opportunities that you might know, but also consider the impact that it can have on your life, because the quality of the work that you do might also impact your personal life. So it's been good.
Right. So tell me, looking back on your career, who or what has been the most impactful? You can start.
Yeah, I can start. So for me, it's a combination of folks. I think back about when I first started in the Dorchester District Court as a state prosecutor, and there were a number of people who I would say uh, took it on themselves to really be mentors to me, and really have allowed me to hone my skills as a trial attorney and have helped me to figure out what type of lawyer I want to be. So, and I think as I progressed in my career, I've had different supervisors who have really uh, taken an interest in making sure that I achieve my goals, and had been impactful to, even when it was maybe detrimental to our unit or to our office, to encourage me to to apply for different opportunities, take on different challenges, and really be people that are focused on my professional success, which I think oftentimes isn't the case for a lot of people. But I definitely feel that I've had the opportunities to have great supervisors who really have been more than supervisors and have been mentors to me. And then I would also say my family has been huge, right? My direct family, my extended family have all really encouraged me and allowed me to be in situations that I can be successful, whether it be when I was in law school or when I was starting off my career. So I think the combination of having mentors and working with people who really cared about my success, and then having that outside of work as well, having that encouragement from my family is what really has allowed me to be successful as a professional.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that too, I would absolutely agree in the sense that once I started working for myself in my profession, I started seeking for a lot of mentorship, and this is something that I actually learned while being at Suffolk. As a student at Suffolk, they really empower you and try to really make you understand the power of networking, but also on looking at people who's in the position that you're in and asking questions and not being afraid to ask for help, especially for people who are more experienced and that are willing to share that information. So I've been thankful enough to have gotten some great mentors during my journey. And now there's even something that they call sponsorship. So on top of just mentoring, there's people who actually would sponsor you in a sense where like they do exactly kind of the same thing as a mentor would do, but they'll even go an extra step in the sense where they'll like even from a financial standpoint will help you with certain resources. They can represent you behind the scenes. So it's something that a lot of companies are doing to help elevate, a lot of the employees there and making sure that they heading in the right direction from a career standpoint. And as Julien touched base as well too, is like my family's been very instrumental in this process. Growing up, we come from a large family, a lot of brothers, a lot of sisters. So we always were very competitive growing up, whether it's playing sports or games. So, now that we older, we competitive, but more in a healthy way. Like my brother Julien graduated Suffolk before me, and when he became a lawyer, it was very inspiring for the whole family. So it kind of made us realize that as much as we achieved things already, there's more that we can do. So even in the process of going back to grad school, I remember talking to Julien. He was telling me how Suffolk was a great fit for him, and some of the resources that were there. So for me, after talking to him and making my own research, it was almost like a no-brainer. He already kind of had an establishment that he felt very comfortable, and I joined in, and it was right downtown location, so everything was very like a perfect fit, and I was able to make a lot of great connection. And another piece too that I also want to be very appreciative of is my faith. Growing up as a Christian, and my church community has been very also instrumental to my success. I think at times when things are not going great, I rely on my faith to pray, and my pastor has been a very spiritual father and been able to continue to challenge me and make sure that just listening to positive words makes me kind of want to, live life to the fullest. So, I think the combination of work, family, and, my church family has really allowed me to, kind of be where I am today.
Amazing. So you both touched on this in terms of mentors as part of the who has helped you grow. How would you describe an effective mentoring relationship?
Yeah, so I think it depends, right? When we think about mentors, for me, I think about them in different stages, right? I think about so you might have a mentor for, a smaller task, right? Which is maybe you're new to a job and you have a mentor that's a fellow associate that's going to show you the ropes on how to do the things to get through your job. But then you also have mentors that are more, long term, right? So folks who have been in practice for a longer time, who have had a longer career, it can help you to help shape your journey over a long period of time. So for me, what I've always, looked for in a mentor is, uh, you know, an opportunity to learn from them about how they got to where they are. And obviously, you want to look at someone who uh, is doing what you were inspired to do, right? And so that you can learn how to get to that level. And it can be tricky because, like all relationships, I think that they have to be genuine for it to work. So sometimes the people that you want to be your mentor is just not a good fit, right? It might be personality, or that individual is not a good mentor themselves, right? And then you also have to be willing to be a mentee, right? So that you have to be able to be teachable. You have to be able to put yourself out there and receive that advice and take on that advice even when it's challenging and it puts you outside of your comfort. But then for me, I think one of the biggest things is that you have to have a mentality that is, you lift as you climb, right? So you're being mentored. You should be also focusing on having a mentee, right? So it can look differently. So if you are, for example, for me, when I, first graduated, obviously I wasn't in the position to mentor another lawyer, but I was in a position to mentor law school students, right? So that was something that I focused on. And I really think about both as, the previous questions as far as career, professional success, and then mentorship. I think of an old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? And I think that for me, it really is, when I think about mentorship, that's how I would describe it, right? If you want to get to that journey that is 10, 15 years down the road to accomplish the goal that you have, you're going to have to build that community, and you're going to also have to reach back and help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you describe an effective mentoring relationship?
Absolutely. I mean, what Julian said, he nailed it. And just to add more to it, what I would say is it's really a two-way street, because when it comes to mentorship, it's as a mentee, you also want to be proactive and active in a sense where, like, you're not just asking for help, but you're also being open-minded to the advice that you're given, but you're also adding something, and that's what like the mentor and mentorship relationship, that's kind of how it would work at its best. If you're someone who's just wants to take in or take advice and not do anything, then a lot of time it doesn't, end out ends out working well. So you really almost have to put the work in. So if someone is willing to mentor you, which a lot of time they're doing it out of kindness, and they're taking a lot of their time, so they also want to see results, and they want to also see that you're not just being passive, and you're actually being proactive and coming to them with a lot of the success that that a lot of the success that's happening in your life. So a lot of time people like to ask for help, which is great, but sometimes you also have to share the things that are being going on in your life that are positive. So even for me, that's what I realized too, as my role changed and I progressed with the firm, and now I'm in a position where I can mentor folks. I ask them the same thing that my mentors ask me too. How interested are you in growing and developing, and what is it that you're doing to ensure your own benefit? Like, are you just being passive? Are you just asking for help? Or are you going to be very proactive and use that relationship to make the best out of it? So it's really an ongoing relationship. I always advise people to be active and not just, asking for help and not being able to reciprocate that. So, and the mentors are not asking for much. So they know you're not in the same position as they are, but they do want to see you be more active and intentional about the actions that you're seeking. And like Julien said, at different levels of your profession, you're going to be able to impact people in different ways. So when you're coming out of college, you're not expecting to be, running the show. You're expecting to help people who were in your position maybe in a year ago. So the impact that you can have, is limitless, but it really is a two-way street. So I hope people realize that you get the advice from a mentor, but they're also expecting you to, be more active and proactive and sharing some of the success that, you've gotten through that advice.
I have a question that is a bit different from the previous ones, in the sense that we've talked about success and development and growing and community. What about challenges and setbacks? How have you been able to navigate challenges or setbacks when they've happened in your career? And how were you able to bounce back, move forward, or what did you just learn from those challenges? Aaron, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. I mean, my life has been full of challenges. If anyone knows me, like a perfect example was something that I'm not afraid to share was my journey, my CPA journey, which has taken me a lot of time, but, I like to say it's God timing, the fact that I was able to pass when I did, but very, very challenging. It took me multiple times to pass because it's known for being a challenging exam. But I think just perseverance and resilience has helped me just, continue to push, also being surrounded by great people, great friends, great family members, also having, my brother who's gone through a similar process in terms of, passing the bar exam, which is very challenging. I mean, he's probably maybe much more smarter than me because he didn't have to take him as much time, but definitely, I think obstacles is part of life, but uh, what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So for me, that I've been using this opportunity to share my story with people who want to listen, and to make them realize that even though sometimes it's not easy, and there's a lot of people who gets discouraged when things don't go well, which sometimes is normal, but if you understand that the challenges is part of the process of life to help you get better, regardless whichever obstacle you come across, then it allows you to continue to keep your eyes on the prize and help you overcome these difficult times.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you stayed the course, because today you are a CPA. So sometimes it takes more than one try, and not everybody is going to get it at the first time. And just because you didn't get it at the first time doesn't mean it's anything less when you finally get it, because you probably studied twice than anybody
Yeah.
at this point. So I appreciate that you stayed the course, and that was a success. Julian?
Yeah, I think similar to what I was saying as far as success, When I think about challenges and setbacks, I think about the challenging cases that I've had, whether it's not getting the outcome um, that I wanted at trial or that I thought was supported by the evidence, and really having to work with the community or victims and, you know, deal with that setback, right? Of, whether it be a not guilty or a sentence that really isn't representative of the harm that was caused in the community or individual. Those are always challenging moments, and I think it's part of the job, right? You're gonna take on difficult cases sometimes, and you're not gonna get the outcome that you hoped. But I think that part of it for me has been to just focus on, like I was saying earlier, right, to try to seek justice and do the right thing. And oftentimes, doing the right thing may not uh, yield the result that you want, right? But I can take comfort in knowing that my focus and my intention was in seeking justice and doing the right thing, and that's kind of how I move forward and bounce back.
So I always end with this question. What is one advice you would give your younger self? Julien, you can go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold. I think as far as the one thing I would say is don't be afraid to network, right? And understand what networking really is, right? It's not just going out there to just meet as many people as you can and trying to see if they can get you a job, or right. It's not trying to get something out of a relationship. I think it's really trying to develop those professional relationships that you can help them and they can help you, right? It's a mutual kind of healthy, relationship that's going to benefit both of you and the industry, really, right? So I would say try to be a little bit more focused on earlier on, right, on networking. And then the second part is to have an open mind, right? I think a lot of times we think that we know what the outcome is going to be or what we want to do and how we want to do it, but it's extremely important to have that an open mind, because that's going to open up opportunities for things that you had never really even thought of, right? You don't know what you don't know, right? So have an open mind and trying to figure out how you can just learn from your different experiences.
Aaron?
I guess what I would tell myself, I would say, yeah, don't be afraid to take risks, because I think sometimes life has a lot of path. So sometimes if you get comfortable doing what you think you do best because of the limited knowledge or circle of friends that you might have, that you might think you might be very great at what you're doing now, but we live in a global world, global market, so sometimes by challenging yourself early on, and taking risk, and then you also learn a lot from your failure. And the earlier you fail in life, sometimes the more you can be successful. Because if you look at a lot of great success stories, many of them occurred with failure. So a lot of times, when we're young, we do get comfortable, and maybe we might be great at what we do, but in comparison to what can be done with what's happening in the world, a lot of times, if you're in high school, middle school, like your neighborhood is your whole world, But I remember the moment that I went to college, I started meeting people from different parts of the states, different parts of the world, international students. So like some of my best friends became international students by just going to school. So it's like, took me out of my, comfort zone, my neighborhood. And then I started meeting folks from different part of the world, and they even encouraged me to travel where they live. And, I started going to places that I never would have been had I just stayed comfortable the way I thought things could have been. So taking challenges and not being afraid to take risk and understand that failure is part of the process, I think would have been very helpful early on in life. But I'm definitely thankful that I was able to, get to a point where I'm comfortable taking risk, and now the risk a little bit more calculated as you get older. But definitely education is, there's a great quote that says, education is almost like a passport, because it allows you to, it opens a lot of different doors. For me, having gone to school has allowed me a lot of doors to meet, wonderful people, and also learn from things that I didn't know before. So I would say take risk, and definitely, yeah, take risk.
Well, I want to thank you for giving your time on a Friday evening to do this interview and to celebrate Black History Month. Two Black men doing your thing, Suffolk graduates, contributing to the success of the community and the success of the country, and pretty much the success of the world, right? Because, like you said, Aaron, you get to meet people, you travel the world, and everywhere you go, you're just making an impact by showing up. So thank you for being an encouraging duo this evening, and we're grateful for the time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us too. Thank you so much to yourself for taking time, and getting the chance to allowing us to share our story. So thank you so much.